So we have an interesting topic today, which is hard work and smart living, lessons from an ant. And this is taken from Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 to 11. And I was pretty surprised that Solomon, who is a king with a lot of wisdom, has time to observe an ant and then talk about it to his son. It's actually, he's giving life lessons to his son, or his children, you can say, though he uses the word son. And he says a few things only. There are only about, 5-6 verses here. But there's profound learning from here. And so I'm not reading the verses, but I will refer to it as we are going through the message. The first one is be open to learning. Okay. What do you mean? What we mean by open to learning is a lot of us think once we finish college, school, we've got our degrees, then there's a full stop to learning. There isn't. It's actually you study in college and whatever, but your learning starts totally when you get into life. And till the day you die, you have to be learning. Go to the next slide. You have to be learning, okay? And the first thing that, the verse it says is go and observe the ant. Okay, so you're supposed to go find an ant. These days we find ants everywhere, so you don't have to go really and observe. Solomon maybe had to walk out of the palace to go observe an ant, but for us it's there in our kitchens and backyard and front yard and wherever. That too, it's summer now, so they're all out. So he says first go and observe. And my thing about open to learning is that you can learn from any situation or any person. I look at it that way. In every interaction, I look for something to learn. Okay, in everything that happens or doesn't happen, I look for something to learn. If you are keen to observe and learn, then you will learn from any situation or any person. And here he's saying, go first and observe, and then learn from their ways. So you have to go and observe and see what they're doing. And then it says, become wise. So it's not just observing, you learn from them, and then you apply it in your life. That is wisdom. Because a lot of us study, have degrees, remember things we learned or not, but finally, are we applying it in our life? A classic example I can share is a doctor, a medical doctor, married somebody, a woman, and many years didn't have a child. So the mother said, now, divorce her and get married again. Now, the problem for the lady not conceiving was not her, but him. But being a medical doctor, he refused to accept that or even stand up and say, hey, it's me. He actually listened to his mother, divorced that lady and got married to another. And of course, she also didn't have a child because it was not the women that had the issue. So here, though he had a medical knowledge, he didn't put it into practice. Right? And then he spoiled the life of 2 women. And his mother was still finding fault with the women. He should have actually said, look, this is how, it goes, and I have a problem, it's not. But he never stood up for it, right? So like this in many things in life we see, that we have the knowledge, but we don't apply it. We don't put it into practice, and that's not something that is wise. That's not wisdom. And Solomon is also here saying, when you observe something and when you learn, and even it can be as simple as an ant from whom you're learning, you need to be open to the learning. So you learn and you apply. Because if you don't apply, that knowledge is like your gold in the locker with no value. It's not earning you any interest, nor is it of any use to you. Yes, it's wealth over there, but knowledge not put to use is as equal to not having that knowledge. And so that is why it's important that we are open to learning. We learn what is new and we also apply. Okay? And we have to realize that there is wisdom to be gained from anything. Anybody can teach you anything. Something as insignificant as an ant can teach you wisdom, okay? And all you need is to have the right attitude and the heart to learn. If you don't have the attitude or the heart, then you will not learn. Because if you think, I know everything, nobody can teach me, then you're not open to learning, right? And if you also feel, hey, who is this person to teach me? Or what will I learn from an ant? Then you're still close to learning. So being open to learning is very, very important. So that's one of the first things I think the first verse says, because it says, go and observe, learn from their ways. Okay. The second one is the ant is very self-disciplined. It says, the ant has no leader. Have you ever seen somebody with a stick standing and saying, ants go in this line? That line goes on its own. It goes from its anthill to wherever and comes back also. Even if you disrupt it somewhere, right? One or two will get a little confused, but they will come back to the line. Or they will form a different line. But that line will go in the same path and come back in the same path. No matter how many times you go, and disturb it. And there's nobody standing there saying, I can only think of a teacher with a stick or some leader standing with one thing saying, do your work. It's like somebody standing at the front door of the office saying, are you coming on time? Now they have the biometrics, so that tells them sitting in their desk. Otherwise, my boss used to be standing there waiting to see who's coming on time, who's going late, okay, or who's going on time. He used to come back from wherever he was, sit in his room, and 5:15 if it's time, he'll be sitting there waiting to see who's going. And then he'll catch them and give some stupid work. Okay? And you have to sit till 8. If you didn't sit till 8, you didn't work. But he had to be standing there. Why? Because people are not responsible enough to say, okay, this is the job assigned to me, I'll finish it and then I'll go. Okay? And the day he was not in office, everybody left at 5, not even 5:15, which was the time. Why? Because why biometrics is required? Why everybody needs to check in when they're coming in and going out? Because people are not being responsible. They're not disciplined to say, this is the time I have to come into work, this is the time I'm leaving from work, and this is the time I need to be in office, and when I'm in office, I'm doing work. You still have people in our systems, when I was in First American, we had software to see which website we're going and seeing how much time we're spending somewhere else and not on work. Seriously. And if you went to sites you shouldn't go, they would send you a letter saying, hey, you went to this particular site. And people sometimes were aware that they were being watched and sometimes not. And when we could take the laptop home, also these things were monitored. There were sites that you couldn't go and check out. And we would have discussions. Can we allow Amazon for them to check? And stuff like that. Because they were doing it during office hours and not doing. And now when we're working from home, there are many times people are not even at the system. Right? If you ask the 11th and 12th standard kids, they have the best way to think as if you're sitting there. They have pictures there to make the teacher feel you're sitting there, but they're doing something else. Okay? So all of this is because we have a sinful nature and we don't want to follow discipline. We don't feel like discipline. We feel discipline is, very restrictive. It doesn't allow us to have fun and so on and so forth. Whereas the ant doesn't need discipline. And as Christians, we do work in the secular world. We could be people who have our own business. We could be working somewhere. Do we maintain a schedule? When, John Smith is a dentist, now his working hours, he's put on the board. Now, when the patient comes at that particular time, is Smith at the seat? Because 3 times if they come at that time and you're not there, 4th time they look at some other doctor. They won't come to you. Isn't it? When you say this is your working time, you should be there. You should be available. Of course, if they come in the middle of the night and you're not there, that's not responsible. But then patients are also indisciplined. I've had patients come to my dad middle of the night. 3 days I've had fever. Today I was going back from the second show and I thought I'll see you. No, seriously, that's one of the reasons I didn't become a doctor. I was like, someone came like that, I'd give them 2 and send and say, come back in the morning. But my dad was patient enough to see a patient like that and treat them and say, come back the next morning. All right? So the ant has no ruler or commander or leader telling it what to do, where to go. Okay? But it does on its own. And as Christians especially, how disciplined is our life? When we commit to something, do we do it without someone having to come and oversee and say, have you done it, have you done it, have you done it? Do we do it in such a way that we can take pride in that work? Or does it have to come back to us 10 times where we have to make corrections in it? Right? Are we proud of our own work? Because all this is there in wherever we are. Whether we are homemakers, whether we are working in an office, whether we're working in a school, whether we're running our own business, okay, all of that, it's there. So the ant doesn't need anyone to tell it what to do or when to do it. It knows the seasons. It will do it in that particular season, okay? And it also knows where it has to go and where it shouldn't go. Right? And also it knows when to work and when to rest. When there is summer, it will be working. When it's winter and it's cold and it knows, in our country we don't have snow, so we see ants throughout the year. But when it's very chill, you won't see the ants come out because they will be in hibernation and they would have already prepared all the food in summer for itself to take care of the winter season, right? But here exactly when you see the verses, it says, "O sluggard," or lazy one. And that is whom Solomon is pointing. So I guess one of his children from his so many wives was a lazy one, and he was talking to that particular child, okay? Or children, a group of them. Because when you have a lot of money and you don't want anything, sometimes you don't go work. Or you don't do the work diligently because there are people to do the work for you. I remember when I was in First American, somebody reached out to me saying, in your company, is there a job? There is this person I know. He's from a very rich family. And he doesn't need a job, but he's not getting a girl to get married to because he's idle. So can you give him a job? I said, one, it's not my company. I take people who work, okay, and who will be diligent to work. And two, even if it was my company, I definitely would not pay somebody who's not pulling their weight. Right? But there are people like that who will join a job or will take up some business, will do the bare minimum, but will expect all the perks and everything. They should be promoted on time, they should be paid more. Right? And sometimes, somebody will come and say, I need this much, a salary when you're doing the appraisal. And be like, why do you need this much? I have needs. You're paid for the value you add. Right? And I always say, if you work 9 to 5, you're paid your salary. You want more, then you should be giving more. Right? If you're looking for being promoted, you should be doing more than what's asked of you. Only then will you be promoted. If you do only what is asked, why would they promote you? Because promotion means you're going to get added responsibility and added tasks. And if you're not showing your willingness to do it already, why would they give it to you? And that's important. So being self-disciplined, and especially as children of God, wherever we are, we should be setting the example of discipline. Right? And people should say, hey, look at them and work like them. Because nobody needs to oversee them. Nobody needs to go check up on them. If they say they will do it, they will do it. The ant doesn't tell anyone it will do it, but disciplines look like that in this world. If you look at and you're learning from an ant, you go to work on time, you may leave on time or you may extend a bit. Or if you're going to be delayed, you take the responsibility to inform your boss. We hardly ever tell people, no? We'll be late, we are delayed, nothing. People have to sit and wonder, are they coming, not coming? Right? And then 10 calls we have to make. 11th call, they may pick up, may not pick up. Being disciplined is all of this. People shouldn't have to wonder about us. They have to look at us and wonder, saying, how are people like this? Not say, yeah, they're people like this. That is a different wonder. Where you're wondering where they are, wondering whether they'll do the work. Our thing is to cause awe, that they don't need, somebody to oversee them. A lot of times I've had where managers used to come and complain, oh, I have these 3 people in my team who cause a lot of problem. They don't do the work, they don't come on time. I just ask them only 2 questions. Are they following your example? Have you set the right example? Right? And 2, you have a job because of those 3 people. If you had 100 people and the 3 were causing trouble, the 97 will take care of themselves because they are disciplined, they'll do their job, they'll come on time, do their job and go. These 3 only you have to take care. That's why you're there. For teachers also, and I know a few teachers sitting here, teachers always have a problem with the students who don't study well. Now the one who's brilliant and studies well doesn't need you. They will anyway study. It is the ones who are struggling you need to sit. There's no point in complaining about them. Right? So we need to focus on who needs our help and be disciplined in giving that support. Right? So that is being self-disciplined. So nobody needs to oversee you. If you've given your word, you will do it. Okay? And the third one is they prepare for the future. I was speaking to Brother Selvakumar some time ago on investments, right? And we were also discussing that as Christians, because we are so against prosperity gospel, we are so dumb that we don't even look at what are the ways in which we can invest. Because the enemy has fooled us totally on saying, okay, God doesn't want you to be rich. Nowhere it says God doesn't want you to be rich. God says the love of money is the root of all evil, but you need money to work in this world. So I will bless you with money. But are you wise enough to hold on to it? There are again two extremes. Either we will be in poverty mindset where we don't have enough and what we get will go as fast as it comes in, or we'll have so much that we forget God. And we won't know how to invest it, we won't give, we'll keep hoarding. To come into that middle ground of seeing God as our provider, right? And investing what you're earning or what is coming in wisely so that you have enough to also give to the ministry. Giving is part of, only in the Bible, right? It says give and you'll be rich. Nowhere else it says give and you'll be rich. Because you can never outgive God. The more you give and you're a blessing to others because of that, not that you're giving anywhere and everywhere, you're supposed to give in good soil. That is also wisdom, where you're giving. You don't get carried away with what people are saying and all. You actually have the discernment that it's good soil or good ministry, and what you're giving is going to be used for the ministry of God. Right? So God never says don't save for your future. How many of us, many of us are, more than middle-aged, or, we're moving towards older age where we will retire and, have to. What are we doing for that? Are we sitting back and saying, oh, my children will take care of me? Or are we taking care of our own future so that we're not a burden on our children? And if need be, our children will take care of us, but we are not sitting with the thing of, oh, they have to take care of us. I'm not taking care of my future. God will take care of my future. My children will take care of my future. If you've not been wise to take care of what you have now, why will anyone want to take care of you? It's a question to me also. Right? So I remember my grandmom, who is the perfect example of this. My grandfather died when she was in her 50s. My father and my uncle were still in college. They hadn't finished college. And only my aunt had been married, the eldest aunt had been married. She had to get all the other 4 children settled in life. And at that time, she was also a doctor, but she would never go to the clinic to practice. Cases used to come home, or she used to just see 1 or 2 cases. But she had to take over my grandfather's practice. And then she had cancer, and she overcame that. She went to Bombay for treatment and overcame that. And then she lived up to 92 years. And she was in a huge house all by herself. She said, I don't want any of my children living with me. You have an independent life, I'll have an independent life. And she was very mobile in the sense of she would walk. Steps and all she would need help to hold. But she would not hold anybody's hand. She had certain people whom she would trust and hold. She would go to church every Sunday, but she would go for the evening service so that people don't have to see her holding hands and climbing stairs. But she would be there in all the services and everything that was required. Every day she had somebody to go see. Monday she would go see her sister who was there. Tuesday she would come to my house. Wednesday, Thursday, like that each day. Sunday was the only day she was home. And she said, want to see me? Come and see me on Sunday. And she would never come empty-handed. When we were kids, she would come with chocolates and stuff. When we were older, it used to be, onion bhaji from Salem Cafe with cashew cake. It was standard. Birthdays, 7:30 morning, she'll be home with a cake and a gift. And in Salem, if you wanted to know what to get where, whether it was jewelry, whether it was saris, it was stainless, she never walked into those shops, mind you. She knew. You could call and ask her, and she'll say, go to the shop, this is there. And she would get us such unusual gifts, never having walked into a shop. She did online shopping then only. She would go sit in the car, people would come, bring the stuff to the car and show it to her. Okay? And 2, she was a cricket fan. Kapil Dev was her favorite. So she had a TV at home, Sports Star magazine used to come home, and she would, read it cover to cover and watch all the matches and talk to you. And Kamal Haasan was a favorite hero. His movie she won't miss. Even she couldn't walk without holding hands, she'll take me, I was her favorite. Take me, go and see So I've seen Sound of Music in the theater with her and a couple of Kamal Haasan movies with her. Why am I saying this? She lived till 92 alone in a huge house. Very independent. She had a car and a driver. She was a diabetic. A nurse used to come and give her insulin every day, twice a day. But she lived alone, in spite of all the challenges she faced. And she took care of herself. She said, the day I die, whatever is mine, I will split it to all my children. Till then, you're not getting anything from me. She said, as a woman, till I have stuff, I have money and property, I will be given respect. If I start depending on people, then gone. I learned my independence from her. But not to say, and she was a staunch believer, Christian. She would pray, she would go to church, all of that was there. So be independent. Take care of your future, just like the ant does. Because a lot of us think, okay, our children will take care, our husbands will take care, so-and-so will take care. No, you take care of yourself. How many of us are taking care of our health? I shouldn't talk about it, but yes. How many of us take care of our health so that in our old age we're on our feet? We're not bedridden. My mother, for all the amount of walking she did, she still was bedridden at the end. But at that time also she was very independent to whatever extent she could be. If you came to visit us, when she was alive, you would see her neatly hair combed and powdered face. She could say, I'm bedridden, nobody's coming to see me, why should I? No, every morning, everything was, prim and proper. And if I say, Mom, someone's visiting, show me the mirror, I have to see my hair, it's proper. Okay, the discipline. And she would read the Bible in the morning. She had, the eyes were very painful for her. But she would still read the Bible. In her 70s, she did masters in divinity because she wanted to understand the Bible more. And she topped her class. That was the best part of all of it. There were youngsters there who didn't pass or got lesser marks. But she was very clear, this is what I'm going to do. The discipline. At 72, she still, because she wanted to understand the Bible more, she did masters in divinity. Right? So, you have to recognize that you need to take care of things for your future. It's not just, the physical. It's the spiritual, it's the emotional. Okay? And know the seasons in your life. There are ups and downs. There are going to be ups and downs. Your life, if it's like this, you're dead. Even in an ECG, if the line is like this, you're dead. There has to be up and down. And so for that up and down, you have different seasons, right? You have a high season, you have a valley, and then you go back up to the mountain. If you don't understand the valley and recognize the valley and enjoy the valley, you will not understand and recognize the mountaintop when things are good, okay? So recognize the seasons that you're in. And each season is very important. There are things for you to do in each of the seasons in your life, because each season prepares you for the next season. If you look at even the ground, when winter is there and the snow is covered, the seed that is there is still there. It's dormant, it's germinating. So that when spring comes, it will shoot up. In our country, of course, that's not there. The trees are there all the time, only a few shed leaves. But I heard a fantastic thing that said, a tree, when you plant a seed, grows both ways equally. So if you look at the root system, it will be as wide and as broad as it is on top. So it's growing both ways. So even for us, we said take us higher. If you don't go deeper, you can't go higher. Because if you look at a tree that is standing strong for many years, the root system is as deep as it's gone higher. Because if you don't go deeper and only go higher, one wind and you'll fall. That is why Smith was also saying, we are not resilient, we are not strong when we face adversity. Because we've grown like this, but not grown deeper. If we've grown deeper and our root system is founded in the Lord, and we are connected to the vine, then no matter what comes our way, we will be able to face it. So the deeper has to come before higher. Maybe we need to change the lyrics of the song. Take us deeper, then higher. Because if we go higher and then deeper, it may have a problem. Right? Only then you get stronger. Right? Only when you are strong and in Him, you can be bolder. Otherwise, you go say something and someone questions you on the Bible, gone, we'll run. But if we are in Him, then we can be bolder also for Him. And then all of that wisdom becomes your foundation. Because if you're not wise enough to do all the three, you cannot be bolder or stronger. You cannot bounce back from an adversity. Okay? And for that, you need to store up things when things are going well. Because the ant stores up provision when it's summer. Right? So what does it mean when it's summer? When there's food. When things are all fine. What is summer in our life is when things are all fine. None of us thought about COVID, right? It seems like a distant dream now. Something that happened some time ago. It's about just 2 years ago. But when it happened, we were all fearful. And after that also, I thought people would have learned and become wiser, but I think it looks like we become worse than before. It showed us how life is short, shows us how much we can suffer, right? And people can lose lives like that. I had a family that about four or five of them passed away in a matter of 1 week. But now when you look at people doing things, it looks like they're just not bothered about life is short. Or they've taken it as a different meaning, saying life is short, do everything. There's no wisdom, right? So when things are going well, please take care to store up things in the future. It could be finances, it could be other things you need. It could be education when you can study. My mom will always say, education will never let you down. The more you study and think, it will always take you forward. So every time I had a setback in life, I ended up doing something, a course or certification, so that there is some backing for me when I go into a new field. So even now, I'm doing certifications on coaching. I'm doing level after level so that there is credibility in the market. A lot of times you don't need it, but people do look for credibility. So when things are fine, ensure you are preparing for your future and you're storing up things. You're preparing for the future. Right? It could be your health. I know a lot of people will say, when I'm older and retire, I will look at the Lord. Who knows you're alive till then? With the way youngsters are passing away today, why wait till that time? Lord is calling you now. Live your life for Him now. So that in the old age also your life is good. Okay? And the ant gathers its supplies during harvest. That is when there is plentiful, it is storing up. So when you're earning well, when you're doing well, okay, give more to the Lord. Save up also. I'm not saying don't give. I'm not saying don't enjoy. Okay? But be wise in your spending as well. Be wise in your investments so that in the time, in case something happens and you're not able to take care of yourself or there's no income coming in, that your savings can help you. God is there to help you, no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean all what He's given you now you've spent and now you're sitting and saying, okay, Lord, now help me. This is like this story, right? There was a flood. We now know floods everywhere, right? Every time it rains, one city is flooding. And so we now have to invest in a car and a boat. Okay, it looks like that, right? So this guy is, stranded on the terrace of his first floor, and the water level is rising, and he's now praying, Lord, save me. So first one guy in a rowboat comes and says, come, I will take you to the safer or a higher place. He says, no, my God will save me. And then later one motorboat comes, and he says, no, my Lord will save me. That guy also goes off. Then when a helicopter comes and they put down that step ladder, right, and says, come, we will, no, my Lord will save me. And little by little water is coming up. Now it's come up till here. And he's like, Lord, you didn't save me. He said, I sent the boats, I sent the helicopter, you didn't go. Those were my ways of helping you. Why didn't you use that? And the thing was, the guy hadn't learned to swim either. Right? So when he was, with all his strength, he still hadn't learned swimming. So he couldn't save himself, nor did he take the methods God had sent. God can do a miracle at that time. But sometimes He uses human beings and natural things to help us to overcome things. And that is very important for us to also discern. So when we have, we should also keep it wisely for what it should be used and take care of your future as well, just like the ant does. Okay? So when things are going good, take care of yourself. When there is provision, like there's lots, ensure that you're also saving up for yourself and you're giving more. The more the Lord promotes you or gives you a hike or a bonus, don't spend it all on yourself. Give to the Lord where you have to. Give to His ministry where you have to. Take an investment where you have to. And also spend for yourself. That's also wisdom. The Lord never says don't pamper yourself. But don't make that only the focus, right? Don't make that only the focus. Okay, be wise in how you prepare for your future. Don't be lazy. The next point, okay? I put this slide earlier also, but have you ever seen an ant do this? I haven't. I've seen people on a hammock, but never an ant on a hammock. I've never seen an ant lie down and say, okay, I'm too tired, I'm going to take rest. Okay, and the first line in this and a couple of verses later also says, don't be lazy. Calls them a sluggard. Okay, now I will define the word lazy first before I go. Because the world has redefined lazy to mean sitting and resting. To only mean sitting and resting. Okay, so it says you have to be busy all the time. If you're working, you have a side hustle. I've never heard this word till now recently. You're doing a 9 to 5 or 12-hour job. 9 to 5 is gone now, right? 12, 13, 14 hours people are working. Okay? But when they come home, they shouldn't rest or take care of family or sit with family. They have to have a side hustle. Where your money is earning, you're earning money while you're sleeping. Just look at the way the love of money is coming in. Because you're working 14, 15 hours, you come back home also, you're thinking about work, you're not resting. But you're not getting paid enough. Or your needs or wants are more than what you're earning. That is why now if you see banks are flourishing. Because for everything there is a loan. And if you're sitting idle, they will call you. Personal loan, so much money we'll give you. One pre-approved loan. Exactly. And so I will say, if you're giving it to me free, don't ask me back for it, I'll take. Okay, one guy was like, I'm saying I don't believe in loans, so I don't want. You take and invest, ma'am. Why you're saying no, pre-approved loan? I said, I don't want. You tell me why, ma'am. I have to tell my manager, you're the first person saying no to a loan. I said, I don't want. I said, if you want, I'll give you loan. Okay, but this is how the world has become. That you cannot afford something, take it on a loan. It's okay if you take one loan and you're able to pay it back. And there also they have, don't take where your income is this much, 30% of your income only should be the loan, not more than that. And now people make jokes, like my salary comes, it's all gone to every loan and I have zero in my balance on the next day. Which is a unwise way of living, right? Because you're not working for what you want, but you are working for all the needs that you have. Okay. For a minute I felt like magician. Okay, I thought I did this and the lights came on. Okay. But yeah. So the thing of lazy is someone who should be working. Okay, who has all the skills, talents, and the physical ability to work, but is not working and is sitting and whiling away time. These days it's social media. You look at reel after reel after reel, and it's end of the day. And you have not seen anything worth it. You've not learned anything proper. Okay? And at the end of the day, you wonder where your day has gone. We're back to wonder now. Okay? That's the wrong wonder. Okay? So, that is the laziness we're not talking about. Because God Himself showed us that rest is important. Because after creation, for the first time and the only time in the Bible you see, it says He rested on the seventh day. Because He was setting us an example, saying your body needs rest. Whether it's every evening when you sleep, you need that proper so many hours of sleep. Each of us, anywhere from 6 to 12 hours is what they spread it out. An aunt of mine is there, she's 92. And because she's sleeping for 10 hours a day, people, what's wrong with her? Nothing, she's old, she needs rest. Somebody is depressed, they are sleeping, then you have a problem, but even then sometimes that is the rest they need. Body knows what it needs. I hurt my leg a few days ago, on my knee I sprained. The only thing I needed was rest and a little bit of pain roll on. Okay? But I had to rest, because if I didn't rest, I couldn't be standing here today. If I said, oh, no pain, and I had strained it more, I wouldn't have even been able to get out of bed today. So your body knows when it needs rest. And in fact, for a minute I felt, because one particular day I slept more. I woke up in the morning, slept back after breakfast, then afternoon also I slept. I was wondering, then I said, no, my leg needs it. Otherwise, I'll be moving around and sitting, and even sitting was not helping. But that's important. So, rest is important, but when you should be working, if you're resting, that is the problem. That's why we never see an ant on a hammock. Okay? It rests during winter when it's hibernation. Then it's fully resting because that time it's taken care of its future, it's able to rest during that time. If you see an ant out in winter, then means the food's over and that's why it's searching. Okay? So the ant is diligent in all its ways. That's why it doesn't need anybody to oversee it. It does not put up her feet or sit idly when there is work to be done. Whereas an idle person will find ways to take rest than work or do the bare minimum. And okay, Bill Gates, he's been attributed to this quote. He said, if you have to find the easiest but the best way to get a job done, give it to a lazy person. Because they will find the easiest way to do something with the least effort. But that's also the definition for smart work. Right? You put the least effort but get the maximum benefit. Okay? So I remember when I was in college, I would study early in the morning for an hour or two. Then before my exam, I will revise once in the evening and once in the morning. And when I go for the exams, I won't carry any book or paper with me. I'll go only with my hall ticket and my... People used to get so angry because outside there, they'll be studying. I go right and I'll get top the class and come off. Or my university and I'll come. And I had another girl, every time she'll be with a book. She'll hardly scrape through. Nothing wrong with her or me, but I'm just saying the smart work is important. You need to know when to study, when to close your book. I don't think anyone who sat outside and read till walking into the exam hall remembered what they read and went. Or only that they remember. The rest of it they didn't. Okay? So we need to be wise as to when we work, how we work. Okay? And you need to be focused on the task at hand. That's what the ant does. That's why even if you break the line, it will still find the line back. And its focus is go get the food, take it back home. Go get the food, take it back home. It doesn't have a cell phone and says, okay, 10 minutes I will see something and the whole day gone. Right? Or I will do something else. I'll take the phone to send a WhatsApp message, end up seeing reels, forget who I wanted to call. There are reels that show, somebody will walk into the house, oh, the shoes, I have to keep it in the other room. They'll take it to the room, they'll see something else there, they'll see 2 cups, they'll take it to the kitchen. They'll go to the kitchen to keep the cup, something else will be dirty, they'll start washing. They were actually ready to go to the market to buy something, but at the end of the day, they didn't do that. Because everything was a distraction and they lost focus. And that is what, I was reading a book on making time by 2 guys who work with Google and some other company, or they did work with these tech companies, right? And there are people who research how to hook your attention. Because the more time you spend on their apps, they get rich, we get poor. Because we are like the sluggard, not doing the job we are supposed to do. Right? And we are so impatient that now Swiggy and Zomato give you food in 10 minutes. And as anyone who knows to cook and loves to cook knows, in 10 minutes you only make junk. Or you have made something that's frozen, you will take it, reheat and give, where all the nutrition is gone. And somebody asked, I was also reading yesterday that said, somebody asked the owner of Domino's, especially in the US, 80% of the people are obese and aren't you responsible to feed them healthy food? He said, good question. Now, we have a business to provide what the consumer wants, right? But we did think about this question and we had one version of a healthy pizza. And we only sold 5,000 units in 1 year. But we had a $1 billion business where we had sold millions of pizzas. And the healthy version was only ordered 5,000 times. So you tell me, as a business person, should I be looking to give you healthy food or the food that you want? Now that's a question we need to look at too. Are we being wise to be doing the work that we need to do? Okay, to being focused on what we need to do. Are we focused on our health? Are we focused on what we need to be doing in this season of our life? If you're a student, are you studying? I remember when I went to an engineering college here and I was talking about how do you prepare for work, right? When they come for interviews, what are they going to be looking at? You have to improve your English, you need to do this and that. One guy got up and asked me, I'm a very brilliant student, but I have 2 arrears. I am more capable than this other student who has passed. Why won't the company give me a job? So I said, in this season of your life, you're a student. The only thing you have to focus is study and pass exam. If that only you can't do, why will I give you a job? Because you've already proved to me you're not trustworthy to do what you are called to do. Right? So and the company will look at that. He won't look at what talent you have right now. All of you are equal. Your marks is what is going to tell me you're good or bad at a job. Later on, yes, we will look at other skills and all that. We look at teachability, we'll look at, but if you're not doing that, which is what you're supposed to be doing now, why would anybody give you a job? Your own father will not give you a job in his own company. He'll say, go finish your exam and come. Pass and come. Right? So, focus on the task at hand. Because the ant does get distracted at times, but it always comes back to focus almost immediately. Because sometimes as it's moving, there might be a stone or something there. It'll go smell it and realize it's not food and come back. Or it'll go say, hey, food, and one more line will come. So there'll be one line going to another particle of food and another going to another particle of food. But that distraction is very, very momentary. Whereas for us, distraction is hours on end. I am also guilty of it. I love the time when I can put my phone for charge on flight mode and sit with a book in my hand. Because then I focus and I read. But at times, even if on the phone or somewhere there is a long text, I don't have the focus to read it. Or I start reading and something else will ping and gone. So to refocus is become the biggest challenge in our life now. Because the distractions are many. That is why we still say don't use a phone or a tablet to read the Bible. Because the minute you start is when everything will start pinging. Your WhatsApp will come, your Facebook, something else will come. One of the best things I've done is remove all the notifications from my phone. It's after this book that I did that. And Tim Cook is a perfect example. Tim Cook is the CEO of Apple. His children, okay, are not allowed to touch any electronic device. Not even 1 hour, half an hour, or maybe very little time. So imagine, he sells you the iPhone and the iPad and everything. Satya Nadella's children are not allowed to touch. Sundar Pichai's children are not allowed to touch electronic goods. But they are waiting for areas to hook you. Hook your focus. So that they can earn in millions. And if you remain unfocused and distracted, then we will go to the next bit where we will become poor or poverty will come and hit us. But that's what the next thing says. Be wise to save up. I talked about it earlier, but I'm also speaking about it again because the last 2 verses in this chapter talks about poverty coming on you like a thief. A thief never announces, right? Tomorrow I'm coming to steal in your house. Right? Never says that. These days it's like this. I saw another quote that says, yesterday a thief broke into my house and was searching for money. So was I. That's how it's become these days. Because what's coming in is going as fast as it's coming in. There is no saving somewhere. If suddenly an adversity comes, we shouldn't, but if it comes, we don't know what to do. We're going and asking people for help instead of being able to sustain ourselves. Or we have not built our trust in the Lord so much that we can look to Him when an adversity strikes. Right? So, there is wisdom in the ant's action. When it's saving up for the future, it's not doing it because it doesn't have faith. It's doing it because it's wise. We have, as children of God, we have the resources of heaven. The entire resources of heaven available to us. But if we are not wise in the little that the Lord has already given us, He's not going to give you the keys to that. Think of your own family members. If someone is squandering money, either drinking or partying or something, and they come and ask you saying, hey, I don't have money for this, can you give? You'll be like, no. If you know it's a genuine case only, you yourself will help. If you see a beggar on the street and he's drunk, you're definitely not going to give him anything. Yes? So same thing with us. God will not bless us with more if we are not wise in using what He's already given us. Because He is a God who loves us so much that He will not give us anything that will make us fall. Because He's more worried about our heart and us than in saying, oh, this person has to be prosperous. He loves for you to be rich, for you not to want anything. That's why Psalm 23 says, the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want, not need. And the Lord says, I will give you the desires of your heart. And He also says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added on to you. But there is a caveat there. You have to seek Him. When you seek Him, you become wise. When you seek Him, He leads you in the way of wisdom. And do you use that wisdom? If you put it into practice, then you're saving up for your future. You trust Him that there will be no adversity. But if adversity comes, you will still go to Him. He will help you. But He will do that only when in the little things you have been wise. That's what happened to the servants and the talents, right? The master gave each of them different talents, but the one guy didn't use it properly. So what was from him only was also taken and given to the one who had more, okay, or was diligent with it, okay? So if you waste the wisdom that you have, or you waste whatever the Lord has blessed you with, whether it's emotional, physical, your talents, your skills, the gifts, everything, then you can be sure that poverty will come upon you. It can be the poverty mindset, or you will lose what you have, okay? So you have to ensure that you are being wise and not wasting what you have, and you're being diligent with what the Lord has blessed you with, so that poverty doesn't come upon you like a thief, and scarcity doesn't attack you like invading soldiers. You cannot stop an invading soldier. They will come and take what is not theirs. So He's giving you a very scary picture. So we need to be wise as the ants and save up. So, and also so that you have some control over your situation. No, we are not saying total control, because we need to surrender it to the Lord. But when things are happening, you're not getting scattered. And you are able to say, hey, doesn't matter, I'll be resilient, I will rise up. You can do that only when you have some backing. When you have nothing, very difficult to stand bolder, go deeper, higher, nothing will happen. Okay? And you can walk in the fullness of the life and abundant life that Christ died to give us. Remember, our life is not our own. But God died, Jesus died so that we could walk in abundant life. And abundance is in every area of our life. If there is poverty in some area of your life, then see where you need to apply wisdom. Because you have everything that you need to fulfill God's purpose in your life. If He's not giving you something, there is a reason behind it. He may tell you, He may not tell you. But if you're walking in His will, then His provision is going to be there. You will realize what's inside of you that He's already put, which you can use. But if you are unfocused or distracted by what's happening around you and not looking to Him, then definitely you will not be walking in the abundant life. But we need to look at the ant. We need to be diligent. We should not be lazy. We should be taking care of things and saving and taking care of our future. It's in His hands. But what we need to do, we need to do. It's like, a student saying, Lord, I have not studied, but help me pass the exam. No way. You need to do what you have to do. You need to do the preparation. Even when He turned water into wine, which was the first miracle, the servants still had to fill up those pots with water, and they were not small pots. They were huge pitchers. They had to fill it up. And then He turned it into wine. If it was empty, if they had not obeyed Mary and filled it up, then there wouldn't have been the first miracle at all. Of course, He could have changed nothingness into everything, because He is a God who did that. But at times, we need to do our part for him to also do his part. Because in this world, we do it in partnership with God. He can do everything with a word, the blink of an eye. But he says, I need you. I want you to partner with me. With you, I want to do things in this world. And that's why us being passionate, us being wise, and we going higher, deeper, stronger, bolder with him, it's always with him, is important. So let's look to the ant. Even as someone as insignificant as an ant, there's so much to learn. And around us, if we look, there is so much of wisdom that the Lord is done in his creation. If nothing else, go to him and he will fill you with his wisdom. And wisdom is very important to be able to survive in this world, which is so against the Lord. For us to be able to stand strong in his word, in him, and to be bold for him, and to thrive and live this abundant life, we need the wisdom of God. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, that we can learn from anything and everything that you have created. Lord, today we've learned about the ant. Help us not to be lazy. Help us to be diligent in all that we do, and to be beacons of hope, and also the standards that people look to follow, Lord, in everything that they do as we follow you, O Lord. Help them to know you through us, and help us to be wise and thrive and live the abundant life you died to give us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.